Imagine a world where wildfires are no longer contained within the realm of forests and landscapes. Instead, they become a relentless force that shapes our environment, culture, and even the very climate we depend on. That world is closer than you think. Hello, and welcome back to our channel. In our previous video, we investigated wildfire science, revealing its complicated mechanics. In this video, we'll dive into the profound connection between these fires and the evolving dynamics of our planet. Is there any ancient wisdom about wildfires? Do wildfires affect various ecosystems, and if so, how? Is there any reverse connection as well? How do wildfires affect people and their well-being? How does climate change play a role in the occurrence of wildfires? Is it only going to get worse? Is there any hope? What can be done to improve the current conditions? We will be answering all these questions as we go deep into this video, so stay tuned till the end. Fire has captivated our imagination since its discovery by early humans. Its significance spans cultures and emotions, symbolizing passion, power, and danger. Interestingly, creation myths from around the world often use fire to explain the unexplainable, depicting it as a divine entity that either empowered or was withheld from humanity. From the Greek and Roman mythology to the Indian and African mythology, the gods of fire were associated with both creation and destruction. In North America, Native American tribes developed narratives that showcase the relationships between human, animals, and the environment, with fire playing a vital role in this delicate balance. There are probably thousands of more such stories and myths, but the central idea is that fire is a cursed blessing, and if we aren't cautious, we'll get burned. What's the point, you may ask? Well, there are some lessons in these ancient wisdoms that we can use to fight against wildfires. More on that later. One of the main questions we're trying to answer is for our native ecosystems. Are wildfires objectively bad? Are all of them equally bad? Everywhere? Like most things, the answer is a little complicated. Ecosystems and species are not adapted to fire per se, but rather to certain fire patterns called fire regimes. Those with little or no evolutionary exposure to fire will often suffer harm of some sort when burned. These patterns can be divided into two categories: fire frequency and fire intensity. Fire frequency impacts ecosystems and species in various ways. Here are two easy-to-digest examples to help illustrate the effects. The first one is called a grass fire cycle. Imagine a dense tropical forest with minimal natural fires due to lightning, mostly occurring during wet seasons with accompanying rainfall. Humans introduce fires into the forest during the dry season, and these fires kill some trees, opening the canopy and allowing sunlight to reach the ground. This change promotes the growth of the tall, flammable grasses that don't usually grow in the forest shaded areas. When these grasses dry out during the dry season, they ignite easily, leading to more frequent fires. This is called the grass fire cycle, which creates a feedback loop where each fire dries the forest further, opening the canopy and enabling grasses to spread. This cycle contributes significantly to tropical forest degradation around the world. The second effect relates to Mediterranean shrublands. In areas with Mediterranean climate, many shrubs and trees naturally regenerate through seeds stored in the soil or canopy after being killed by fires. If fires occur too frequently, these plants might not have enough time to mature and replenish their seed banks before the next fire. This shortage of viable seeds can lead to a decline in plant abundance and increase the risk of plant species extinction, ultimately disrupting the balance and health of the ecosystem. Now, let's talk about fire intensity. It's another significant factor impacting species response and ecosystem health. A low-intensity fire can have some positive effects on the ecosystem, such as nutrient recycling, clearing out undergrowth, germination of seeds, maintaining biodiversity, creating new habitats, disease and pest control, encouraging early succession species, enhancing soil structure and habitat complexity. Here are easy-to-understand examples that explain the importance of fire intensity. Fire intensity describes the rate of energy released from the combustion of biomass consumed in a fire, and it plays a crucial role in species response and ecosystem health. The first example has to do with forest densification. In western North America, dry conifer forests were adapted to frequent low-intensity fires prior to Euro-American influence. Adaptations to fire included thick bark, self-trimming, lower branches, and higher flitter flammability. However, fire exclusion and selective logging have resulted in increased forest density, leading to the emergence of fire-intolerant species and the accumulation of fuels, causing infrequent but highly intense fires. These new conditions can lead to regeneration failures or conversion to grass and shrub-dominated vegetation. In a nutshell, the death of a forest. Fire also influences animal populations by altering habitats and vegetation. Animals with better escape abilities or access to refuge are more likely to survive and reproduce in fire-affected areas. To just get an idea of how devastating a wildfire can be, here's something. During 2019-2020 bushfires in Australia, it is estimated that 3 billion animals were killed or displaced. That's more than one-third of the total human population on the planet. And that's just one of many wildfires in recent history. But how do these wildfires affect people? It couldn't be much, right? Since more than half of the entire population lives in urban areas. Well, let's see. An estimated 7.4 million kids in the US alone are affected by wildfire smoke each year. That's 1 in every 10 kids. For adults, it's likely to be even worse. Wildfire smoke, a chemically complex mixture of toxic combustion products and fine particulate matter, poses significant health risks, with its composition and health effects influenced by various factors such as fire behavior, vegetation type, season, burn conditions, and combustion phase. Of all substances produced by wildfires, particulate matter, especially smaller than 2.5 micrometer, known as PM2.5, is the major smoke product of concern. They are so small that billions of them can fit inside a single red blood cell. These fine particles can get deep into lungs, and some may even get into the bloodstream. Exposure to these particles can affect a person's lungs and heart. Researchers estimated that 2.4 million premature deaths every year globally are caused by PM2.5. Apart from the general public, firefighters experience declines in lung function, hypertension, systemic inflammation, changes in bone marrow content, lung cancer, and mental health issues, such as post-traumatic stress disorder. The emotional impacts of wildfires are notable as well. Wildfires can lead to confusion, anger, fear, and loss, all carrying long-term effects on individuals and communities. Specifically, psychological distress may arise from losing valued landscapes or from enduring prolonged smoke exposure. But you might think, hey, if wildfires have been around for millennia, why is it that big of a deal? Why is it considered extreme all of a sudden? And the answer to that is because our planet is on fire and climate change has most to do with it. The IPCC report indicates that weather conducive to wildfires, which is hot, dry, and windy, has become more frequent in some regions and will continue to increase with higher levels of global warming. Since industrialization, the Earth has experienced a long-term warming trend. Some areas like the Arctic have seen over twice the global average temperature increase. This warming has affected fire regimes as climate change directly increases the likelihood of fire occurrences, contributing to the extreme weather conditions that lead to wildfires. Climate change effects on fires can be categorized as direct effects caused by drought, high temperatures, and changes in the strength and seasonality of winds. Indirect effects caused by the nature and availability of biomass, fuel, and both direct and indirect changes in the frequency and location of ignitions. Direct impacts of climate change on fire behavior are already visible in some places, predominantly driving fire regime changes in global tropical and boreal forests. As one can imagine, extreme variations in rainfall, drought, and moisture conditions can lead to altered fuel loads, its moisture, and flammability. In the Arctic, accelerated warming has increased fuel flammability due to the extended growing season and thawing permafrost, leading to some of the largest percentage increase in fire occurrence. To give you some idea of how serious this is, boreal forest, also known as taiga, is the world's largest land biome. It has an area of 1.2 billion acres, which makes up of 12% of Earth's land and 33% of world's forests, and around 30 to 40% of the Earth's land-based carbon. Right now, the boreal forest absorbs and stores more carbon from the atmosphere than it releases, helping to cool the climate while supplying the air with oxygen. But because of wildfires, the carbon that's been stored for thousands of years could be released into the atmosphere, speeding up the rate of global climate change further. One day, the boreal forest could become a carbon source rather than a carbon sink. By the end of the century, the likelihood of catastrophic wildfire events will increase by at least 30%. Even under the lowest emission scenario, we will likely see a significant increase in wildfire events. So, is that it? Is that all dark and gloomy? Well, not quite. While eliminating the risk of wildfires completely is not possible, much can be done to manage and reduce risks. Integrated wildfire management is key to adapting the current and future changes in global wildfire risk. It consists of 5 interlinked and often overlapping phases, also known as PPPRR, which is planning and prevention, preparedness, response, and recovery. These phases can be summarized in 4 key actions. First, address climate change's impact on wildfire prevalence and behavior while enhancing understanding and fuel management. Second, implement integrated wildfire management approaches, incorporating indigenous, traditional, and contemporary practices. This is where the ancient wisdom of fire handling applies. Third, strengthen international cooperation and rebalance investments toward proactive mitigation and management. And fourth, empower communities and local authorities and prioritize firefighter safety. So there you have it. Fire is changing because we are changing the conditions in which it occurs. Not all fires are harmful and not all fires need to be extinguished as they serve an important ecological purpose. However, wildfires that burn for weeks and may have effect on millions of people over thousands of square kilometers present a challenge that right now we are not prepared for. No single country has yet formulated the perfect response, but many are making progress in different aspects of managing the risks of wildfires. Together, we can learn from each other regardless of mitigation. The experts say we must learn to live with fire, and indeed we must. We must learn to better manage and mitigate the risk of wildfires to human health, people's livelihoods, biodiversity, and the global climate.